There are some things that you need to know about growing lambs. I just want to give you a couple of thoughts on growing lambs before you get yours. First things first is the actual nutrition of the mom or the ewe. It's very important that when we got to this phase, I'm very thankful we caught it when we did. They need extra feed, they need extras. It's just like a human mom. They're going through this thing, there's something inside of them, they need extra food, they need extra nutrition to help them grow. So don't think that the same food ration is going to be acceptable for them whenever they're having babies. We need to provide for them to have that extra amount. The next thing to keep in mind for these ewes are housing. They need housing and protection for these baby lambs. Everything is a predator to these lambs. The next thing we have to consider is housing. Every single thing is a predator to these baby lambs as they fall. So it's very important they have a safe place that they can go take harbor. The temperature can kill them. Obviously a stray dog, a wild pig. Shoot, here in Mississippi, they could lay over in a fire ant bed and die. It doesn't take much for them to get overwhelmed. We've had that happen where they lay over on an ant pile, just being young, dumb sheep. And unfortunately, it just takes no time for those lambs to consume them and be eaten up. So it's very important that we provide protection for them. They have to be safe from not just predators, they need to be out of the elements, extreme heat, extreme cold. Most time, I would, at least for these sheep, they're born typically in the absolute coldest of winter. We had a randomly heated up this week, and it's been kind of nice. But typically they're born in a cold streak, and I'm gonna talk more about that in a minute. But they need to be able to be out of that extreme cold so they can be in here protected and safe. The next part of this is monitoring. Sheep are great animals, but there's a reason that God talks about them in the Bible, specifically in comparison to humans. They are incredibly dumb. They're incredibly impressionable. They will literally follow one absolute to the ends of the earth for no reason at all. They have just this innate ability to get themselves into things that they shouldn't be into. And so we have to keep an eye on them. They're not super intelligent. They do kind of whatever leading them does, and they follow it. They will literally follow a feed bucket all the way to the butcher. I could walk them 5 miles with a feed bucket. But with that, we also have to monitor them as well, especially when we know that they're close. My lambs historically have always had their babies whenever there's a giant temperature drop. Their gestation period is between 145 and 150 days. But what I've noticed is that where it fits in that realm typically tends to be whenever that temperature drop or a new air pressure system comes in. And unfortunately, that normally means that when we get that temperature drop, I have had about 10 lambs born out in a snowstorm. And I'm very, very thankful that we were kind of on top of it. And I have livestock guardian dogs who are watching these moms. Marla is an absolute saint, and it requires monitoring even on Marla's part to keep these baby lambs safe. We arrived home from church to have baby lambs out in the pasture after dark, and it was our livestock guardian dog having an absolute fit, barking, going wild. The mom was up here in the barn, but she left twins out in the pasture, and it was Marla who laid on top of them, licked them, cleaned them up. Marla stayed with them until we got. So I'm very thankful, again, that I have Marla. Marla is an absolute angel. If you don't have livestock guardian dogs, they're the unsung heroes of the homestead. I'm going to do a whole nother video on Marla and our 6 livestock guardian dogs on another day, but I believe it's an important key to help you monitor. If you don't have that, it just means that you got to poke your head out the door more often. Keep an eye on them. Again, they'll have them out in the water. They'll lay down and have that baby in the middle of an ant bed. It's very key that you're kind of keeping an eye on them. Next thing is just have the essentials ready for them. It's when you're working from behind, it's really difficult to help a mom who's struggling. I've not had a whole lot of lambs that struggle. It does happen. Or I have a mom who rejects her baby. And so, but then I don't have the milk or the colostrum. I don't have bottles. I don't have all those things to take care of, like clean ones. And then I'm like backtracking. I'm having to run to Tractor Supply at the last minute. And essentially I could lose that lamb because I was not prepared. So it's very important this time of year, whenever it's lambing season, that we already have our bottles ready. We have our colostrum. We have everything that we need ready to go. That also means having certain essentials like gloves in case you have to help. It's very rare, but it does happen. I've had it happen with goats, not my sheep. Where I've had to go in though and pull out the baby. And this doesn't happen often, but when it does, you'll be glad that you had a pair of gloves sitting around. And with that, again, sterilization, whether that's food grade hydrogen peroxide, maybe that's iodine, you need something that's gonna help sanitize all of that and help you be able to do that. And sometimes you gotta help break and cut umbilical cords and do those types of things. So again, it's nice to have a clean pair of shears that are sanitized, ready to go. The next part of being ready is also like the actual space they're going to be in. I don't recommend just having your sheep all in one big area. Whenever these lambs come in tonight, their moms will and their babies will go into individual pods off of our main barn. We have 3 areas that they can be in, and this allows us to kind of keep them separate. I let them during the day get out and enjoy the greenery, enjoy the sun, but I need to make sure that they're not going to get trampled on at night. Here in this main area, we have what can be 8. Here in this main area, we have about 12 lambs that'll come up here, bed for the night. And this also doesn't include the 4 goats that are out here as well. So it gets kind of wild in here. It's kind of like a rodeo. It feels like when because they all come in here at one time and trample in, and then it becomes feed time. And so they trample around the feed buckets, and that's a whole nother time where they could get trampled. So I tend to put them off to the side whenever they come in. I close in the door, and before I feed and cause a scene, I separate the ewes and the lambs so I can keep them safe and away from the madness of the barn, if you will. And the last part of that is the actual lambing area. We kind of hit it on it a couple times, but you need to make sure that there's plenty of water in there. There needs to be food for the mom. It needs to be dry. You need to make sure that there's no rats, no mice, no ants. You need to make sure that it is a safe space for that lamb. Here in Mississippi, we have what we call wolf rats. These rats, the body of them is like this. You add the tail, it's like a borderline possum, and they get up into our barn. They will kill lambs. So it's very important that we're staying on track with it. We keep 2 barn cats that generally help us with that. Typically, the cats do our job. If you see our cats, they're super fat and plump, and that's not because I'm feeding them every day. That's because they're here active around the barn, and they're killing snakes. They kill rats, mice, frogs, you name anything that can kind of roam in here that's not necessarily supposed to be here. I hope this helps. Again, I love having sheep. Sheep are an absolute blessing to the homestead. They're not that complicated, but we do have to help them, especially in that infancy phase. The first 6 months of their life is incredibly crucial that they have our protection. When we got to provide protection by having a sturdy fence, we got to have protection by having a good roof over their heads, a warm place to be. I have physical protection from our livestock guardian dogs who are out there. I hope this helps. This is the Homesteading Chef. I'm excited that you're here. We got cooking videos coming up. We've got just such an awesome time, and I'm really hoping that you're enjoying it. We're kind of walking around and exploring the barn, and it's just a great time to be in the homestead community. The community has grown so much in the last 5 years since the pandemic. I think there's so many people here who can provide a wealth of knowledge. So I am 1 out of a billion out here on the YouTube space, and I'm glad that you joined me for this video. Please make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe down below. We look forward to seeing you next time on Homesteading Chef. You can't see it, but there is a goat going in between the stilts of the camera. I keep waiting for him to knock it over. There is, hey, homie. Hey, homie, get away from that. Get away. Get away. Hey, no. Get. Davy Jones. Come on. Get. You want to go in there with Ami? Or Ami's going to come out here and cause problems too?